What's going on, everyone? Welcome into another game day update. I am Kelcey, and I am joined by the lovely Kayla Gray, the silent reporter for the Raptors. Kayla, we meet again twice in a week.
Yes, I know. Exactly. I was like trying to count down the days before we like connected, and I was like, I feel like I just saw her last week. It has been like less than a week since I've seen you. It'd be less than one day less than a week because they played
Crazy.
last Wednesday.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm so happy to see you again. I wish it was in person again, but it's still warm down here. It's a little colder for you, I've heard from the guys. So I'm gonna just stay in the sunlight, I guess, for this
Yeah,
one.
yeah, girl, it's cold. The jackets are out. The jackets. It was like a cute light jacket that I wore when I was down to see y'all, and then now that I'm here, I'm like, oh, we gotta get out the heavy duty stuff. The snow has fallen. Yep.
The snow has fallen. All right, let's get into today's game. I think going into this one, the Grizzlies have a bit of a sour taste in their mouth, wanting to get that one back from the Raptors. They gave up a 14-point lead there. They scored, 21 points in the third and fourth quarter against the Raptors.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Ja Morant will be out. He was the leading scorer against you guys, 6 days ago, I guess. So when you go into this game and you're looking at, the Raptors squeaked one out. No, they did not squeak one out. They beat the Grizzlies and they've lost their last two. They got the Grizzlies again without Ja Morant. What do you think the mindset is going into this one?
Geez, right? There's so much to unpack with that game even. And I think in speaking with Coach Nick Nurse, he was like, you look at that Memphis game and that is exactly who we are. And that's like some sort of summing up who and what we've been this season, right? Struggles defensively as we saw in the first half. And then you have these random bursts of spark from Svi, but Utah's coming in, but Fred's going to give you what you need at a certain time. And I think that there's so much positive to take away from that second half, but that first half, of course, is where things fell apart. And that first half is what we've seen in the last couple of games in terms of this team struggling offensively. Like they have yet in the last two games to crack the 100-point mark, right? Offense is someplace that they've been struggling the last little while. They just haven't been able to get anything to go. Ball movement hasn't really been there. And then defensively, you get a sense from the guys that they've struggled mightily. I know obviously the Grizzlies have, had their struggles this season, are trying to take a step in the right direction. But this is also a group when we're talking about with Toronto that is their bread and butter. That is exactly how they want to be identified on this year. And that's how they haven't been showing up in the last couple of games. So, for so many people that might say like, oh, this is a little bit easier, Jaws out. There's still bigger fish to fry. And especially when it comes to that defensive end, because if this is how you want to be identified, things need to be cleaned up.
And it doesn't go with one person, but a big part of that is OG is such a good defender. He's still out.
Yes.
Gary Trent Jr., another like decent defender that the Raptors should be able to rely on, is questionable. So we're not sure if he'll play yet. But when it comes to defense, is there a player that who is playing tonight for sure that they have to lean on?
Yeah, I think Fred. And I know that's like an odd one. You mentioned OG, the things you get from OG as a strong, solid two-way player, but also on defense, what you're missing from him. As you mentioned, Gary, the deflections, obviously know that he has these massive active hands now that forces turnovers, that forces those steals. But then another name that I think we got to shout out too is Khem Birch. You think about like what Precious Achiuwa is slowly coming into himself. You need a traditional center. You need someone that just sort of like knows the fundamentals, doesn't do too much, focuses on the simple things, while all the young guys are trying to figure out their leggings and who they want to be on the court, right? So I think that that's probably the biggest miss for this group is Khem Birch, because at least you're going to get solid minutes out of him. Sure, you're not going to see it on the stats when it comes to points that he's contributed, but it does show up in other ways too. The offensive rebounding, the second chance points, those are all Khem Birch, strong points and strong suits of his game. But, when you look at kind of guys, you want to think about Svi, who has been obviously really great, especially for that second unit. Utah has been big too, with a couple of blocks that he's had over the last couple of games as well. Precious too, obviously a lot of the conversation has been what Precious can do offensively, but I think too we have to focus on what he can do in terms of defense as well. That second unit, so much is going to be relied on with that group, right? And I throw in Fred because Fred got the heart of a giant, right? Sure, he doesn't give you the size, he doesn't give you the height, but what he does do is he ingests this energy, and Fred does not give up on defense. And he's super huge when it comes to communication, and especially for young guys like Scotty, Delano, especially some guys that, even Fred was pretty honest about and said, a lot of these guys the last couple of games have missed their assignments or were not matched up properly at a timeouts. And you need that type of leadership on the floor. You especially need on the defensive end. You especially need that type of communication when you want to get stops.
That is kind of the perfect word when you were talking about Fred. I was like, it's the leadership that he kind of has on this Raptors team. Now, offensively, I think he's probably one of the best players in the league right now. Like stats wise, kind of not talked about enough, but he's doing good. Let's take Fred.
He can run. Fred is averaging like the most points.
Minutes.
Poor guy. Like it's wild to me. And you know what's funny is it's not as though his minutes this season have taken that big of a hit in comparison when he was healthy and not dealing with COVID last year, right? But it's what we see in those minutes provided this season that makes you really understand just how much his body is really taking in, right? On the defensive end, as I mentioned, but also the guy that has to really, really be the leadership. Remember, he could rely on Kyle last year. It literally is just Fred. And when he sees things slipping, Fred's not the type of guy to let people learn. Like, not, well, he'll let you learn, but like, he's like, none of this. He'll tell you, but also too, he wants to win. So he's like, listen, y'all gonna learn your lessons after these plays happen. But like, if I can contribute in any type of way, I'm gonna do that. You know, you see Fred limping into the locker room after games. He just has that mentality to him, and he stretches those minutes that are given to him.
Okay, let me take Fred off the table for you right now, and I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to give you my answer first from our end, from the Grizzlies, on the one player that we got to keep an eye out tonight. And it can't be Fred, because we already know Fred's going to play good. That would be the same as if Ja was playing. We can't say Ja. I'm going to say, because Precious had such a good game in Memphis, I'm going to say that in Toronto, it's going to be a Dillon Brooks night for the Grizzlies. That's just what he hasn't been there all year. Last year, final homecoming. It's been a while. I'm going to go with Dillon Brooks.
Well, I also want to agree with you because, you know, we talk about defense and you know, it obviously is no secret that Memphis does want to work on who has been the sound guy defensively for this group. It has been Dillon Brooks. And you notice when he came back just how much they need him. And also too, I don't have this experience like you do in terms of seeing Dillon up close and personal when it comes to seeing him physically out there. There's another element to his game that is not just being done or displayed in what he can do on the court. There's the talking. There's the looking at the bench and jawing. And yeah, sure, that's like
he gets under team skins.
Right. That's the corny stuff that us fans are like, yeah, give it to us, entertainment. But think about for the young guys, right? Like, he is truly a welcome to the league guy, and he will fight. So every single stop, he will, and he'll get in your head a little bit, right? Obviously, it's all in jest. This is the game. Do guys talk, you know what, all the time? Of course. But I think that there most definitely is another layer to that. And that layer, honestly, Kelcey, what I was seeing from Memphis's bench was, it's so contagious. That is what made the game, I think, so physical and so jawing back and forth. And when you have an energy guy like that, that could take your team to a whole different level.
Absolutely. Do you have one guy for the Raptors that Grizzlies fans got to look for?
Scotty.
There we go.
I mean, there we go. Yeah, it has to be Scotty because, you know, Nick basically gave him the green light to pull up for more threes, right? And, you know, their last time out in Boston, that's exactly what he was doing. He was feeling more comfortable with shooting that three. And I think that that's what's going to help with spacing, with stretching the floor, is you have a guy like Scotty who, you know, at one point, defenders weren't even worried about if he was pulling up from outside. But now he has that confidence. And there we go with another layer to an already what seems like rounded out game for someone who has just stepped into this NBA group. So, I mean, Scotty for sure. Precious, I think there's a lot riding on this. You don't want it to just be you rose to the moment in Memphis. You want that to be something that's continuous. So I definitely think that we got to look for that as well.
Perfect. I know Memphis fans always watching Precious, and Scotty's a good one because he is in the running for Rookie of the Year. So it's a fun game to have the opportunity to watch him. It is a 6:30 tip-off if you're watching from Memphis. That means it's 7:30 for you, Kayla. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck tonight.
Oh, thank you. Good luck to you guys as well. Appreciate you, Kelcey.